Hey guys, welcome to Chaos Unfiltered. I'm your host, Abby, and today we're going to be talking about forgiveness. I feel like this is a very broad topic, right? So we can go in a lot of different directions, relationships, friendships, family, like all of that. And forgiveness looks different, and I feel like every situation, every depending on what that person means to you, it's going to depend on if you're willing to forgive them, if you're not, all of that shit. I don't know. Let's get right into it, right? So, forgiveness is going to be given to probably everybody, right? Because nobody's perfect. Nobody can do everything right in the world. Now, there are some things that are definitely unforgivable in life. And I totally agree with that. Obviously, if it's something you're going to jail for a very long time, it's probably not forgivable. Depending, I know there are situations, stuff like that. But that's just where my head's going to go. We're not going to dive into the deep end and talk about the unforgivables and all of that shit because that's not realistic. Like, those things don't happen. Well, they do happen every day, but they don't happen every day in everybody's life, right? So I really wanted to do this podcast because it's more about how much can you forgive a person? How much should you forgive a person? Is there a breaking point of forgiveness, or is forgiveness always given, right? And I feel like this is very situational and it's very dependent on the person. Like, I know some people that are just super forgiving and give people a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chance. And that's great for them. But I feel like after a certain time, right, if it's the same fucking shit over and over again that you're telling them hey, this is not okay, I'm not okay with this, or hey, I didn't appreciate you doing this, whatever it is, right? Or if they're coming to you and they're doing the same shit over and over again and you're taking that apology and they're like, "Oh, I can change." But they've showed you time and time and time and time a fucking again that they're not going to change. Like, that to me is like a red flag, right? And that you should stop forgiving them. I think forgiveness can be given. I think forgiveness is going to be given a lot in life. Everybody's living life for the very first time. I say that a lot. So no one's going to be perfect. No one knows how to do this living thing perfectly. Everybody's going to make mistakes. But if you keep making the same mistake over and over again, that's no longer a mistake. That's a choice. That's an action that you choose to do. And they're also probably doing that again and again because they know you're going to forgive them again and again and again. So it doesn't matter, because in a relationship, that's where I'm kind of going more with this right now, is if you fuck up, right, and then you apologize, all that, and then you do it again, and then you forgive them again, and then they do the same shit again, and you forgive them again. They're not actually sorry. They're sorry they got caught, and they're gonna keep doing it. Now, I feel like there is some leniency in that, right? Like, let's say, okay, you do one thing, you apologize for it, and then, you do something different, right? Then that's okay for an apology. That's, again, no one's perfect, so it makes sense. But if it's the same thing and it looks the same every fucking time, and they're still apologizing for their actions every single time, but you've already talked about this 12 fucking times and nothing has fucking changed, that is an action that they are choosing to do. It is not I fucked up, I'm sorry. No, there was no fuck up. They meant to do that shit, okay? And I feel like that's where that's really important, of you can only forgive someone so much before they just start walking all over you. And there is a fine line for that, depending on the person and how they know who you are and how you are, and that you're willing to forgive them because you love them. And this can go for relationships, friendships, family, all of that. They know who you are as a person, probably, and they know what they can get away with. And that's the hard part, because if you're a lover girl, if you're just someone that is a kind individual, like super kind, and just wants to give people the second chances and wants to see the best in people, right? Then it is really hard to have that backbone and be like, actually, no, like, I'm tired of you fucking doing this to me. It's the same shit I've told you that I didn't like this, I didn't, whatever, and you keep doing it. You know what they're gonna say? They're gonna say, I'm sorry again. And that's where you have to realize, like, no, I'm not gonna forgive you this time because we've already been over this. And it hasn't been the first, the second, or the third time. It's been 12 times, right? Like, at that point, they know what they're doing. And I also think, though, it depends on, like, timeline almost, right? If it keeps happening consecutively, like day after day or week after week, really close together, that makes it really hard. And that's where I think it should be definitely unforgivable in those things, and that you shouldn't give forgiveness for whatever that action was, because you just had that talk. You just talked about this and you expressed your feelings. So they know how you're feeling and they didn't change shit. Or they changed it for like a day, right? And then they went back. Like, no. Red flag, no. If it's like they did it one time and then 6 months down the road they did it again, a year down the road they did it again, that might be a little different. Again, it's all situational, right? It really depends on the context of that situation. Like, what did they do that they're apologizing for, right? Did they forget to pick up their dirty sock? Fine, we can have that conversation a lot of times. That's not something I'm going to break up with someone over, is that they didn't put their dirty sock in the fucking laundry. Even though it can be quite annoying, like. But that's not something you're going to end it over. But are they cheating on you? That, no, like, that draws a line, right? Like, you can only forgive cheating so much, and for some people they can't forgive cheating at all, and that's valid. Like, I do not blame anybody like that. um I think for me it'd be very situational. Again, if it was, I don't know, and this is something I don't even want to think about, to be honest, because like no one wants to think about their significant other cheating on them. So I don't know if I could forgive it, to be honest. But like, that's something that you're like, no, you stand 10 toes down. That's not okay. We're done. Again, situational. I'm not going to think about it anymore because nobody wants to think about that shit. So I'm trying to think of like another example of that's not as extreme as cheating in a relationship that I could compare like the dirty sock to, but literally that's what I thought about and I cannot think of another one. So actually, okay, so we could say how they kind of like address you and talk to you. Like, you probably know what I'm talking about. Some people are like very rude and sometimes talk down to you. I've gotten this a lot in my life of just being talked down to just because I am a female and all of that shit. So I don't know. It's like they don't see me as an equal, anything like that, right? I don't know. That shit doesn't make sense to me. I think everyone is equal, so it shouldn't fucking matter, anything like that. But if they keep like continuously talking down to you, if they keep yelling at you, if they keep calling you names, that is one thing that I hate in a relationship, right? I hate name calling. I don't care if you are extremely pissed off at me, fucking livid. Don't sit there and call me a child. I mean, anything, right? Like, you should not be calling me a bitch. You should not be calling me any name, especially in a heated moment. Like, I totally understand there's times and places where you can be goofy, funny, and you're like, haha, you're an asshole. Yes. Well, and also I am an asshole. So, like, I understand that shit. But when you are actively in an argument and you keep name calling, like, that shit pisses me off. Like, I cannot stand that. Like, I don't understand why people think that's okay, because it is disrespectful and it's talking down to someone. That would be something that, like, hey, I'm gonna have that conversation with you, right? I don't like name calling. I really would like you to stop doing this. Like, It's just not okay with me. It doesn't make me feel good. I understand you're mad, but we can go about this a different way, right? We have that conversation. You're not gonna have an well, hopefully you're not gonna have an argument the next fucking day or the next week. Like, hopefully your arguments are a little spread out because if you're having arguments that much, maybe you should look at the whole relationship. But that's besides the point. Okay. You have another argument a month down the road, right? Maybe 3 months down the road. And the name calling continues. I might give them another chance of like, hey, I really don't appreciate this name calling, all of this, whatever. If they understand, cool. Another time goes around, we have another argument, and then they do it again. At some point, that's going to be really unforgivable for me because I find it so disrespectful. Like, I'm not going to keep trying to explain myself that I don't like that you're calling me names. I've been in this situation. I'm going to be 100% honest. Like, I have been in a situation where I have said, I don't like that you're name calling me. Do not call me names. And in that moment, like, we were actively in argument, and I told them, I was like, I don't, like, please stop calling me names. You're not going to call me names. And it was in my own apartment. Like, yes, we lived together. The only name on the lease was me and my roommates, though. And he had just, like, recently moved in, I think, or something like that. And I was like, hey, please don't call me names. And I was being very respectful about it. Like, I probably laid the F bomb of, like, I don't fucking like when people call me names, all of that. And he was calling me, like, tough ones, right? Childish, like, all of those things. And that really rubs me a wrong way, especially when you call me childish or anything like that, because I mean, I was grown, I had a job, I was paying my own bills, like all of that shit. So, like, I'm not a child. So, but I said it very politely, and then they kept doing it, and almost was like they kept calling me names more frequently because I told them to stop, right? And like, you can catch on to those cues, you know that. So in that moment, like, I gave like a one, hey, please don't do this, and then I was done. And I don't know, probably looking back at it, he probably did it multiple times before, to be honest. Who knows? I think he probably did now that I'm like thinking about it a little bit. But at that moment, like, and it was the heat of the moment too. Like, I definitely say don't make rash decisions. I don't think this was a rash decision. Uh, my parents probably would hope that I stuck to kicking him out of the apartment because that's what I did. I was like, you cannot call me names under my own house. Like, get the fuck out of my apartment. Like, it is what it is. We were very toxic. It was the worst relationship I've ever had. So, but that's besides the point. And, but that's the thing, right? Like, that was my line of like, I'm no longer forgiving this. And you have to at some point stand on that backbone. And it is hard because, with that person, like, we were talking, not dating, it was complicated, guys, right? For like almost a year, probably a little bit over. I don't even remember. It's been a minute. It's actually been like 5 years. So, but because of that, like, there's a lot of feelings attached. So, telling someone that you, like, in that moment thought you loved, right? To get out and you're basically ending the relationship, like, that's not easy. That's not easy at all. And I'm gonna be honest, guys, I didn't even fucking end the relationship. I should have. I really fucking should have. But I just kicked him out of that moment and I let him come back. And you know what? Shit didn't fucking change. And I think that's the thing you have to realize with forgiveness too is like, you'll realize like a person's patterns and you'll realize what they're willing to change for you because it's not going to take 3 times for them to change that. They're going to correct those actions really quickly if they do love you and they do want to be with you. Now, everybody makes mistakes, so sometimes they might slip up. That's okay. But you can tell they're trying, right? Like maybe we had an argument, they called me names, I told them I didn't like that. The next argument we had, they didn't call me names, right? Great, they're making progress. I love that. The next argument, they started calling me names again. All right, fuck. Let's talk about it again. And they're like, hey, I know. It's just that communication. Communication is so important. And it's just how you are communicating with each other. Because if you're communicating in a negative, nasty way, that's going to really change if I'm going to forgive you or not. Now, with friendships and family, right? Like, you still have to go through forgiveness with them too. I think for a lot of people, family is really hard to not forgive because you're like, oh, blood is thicker than water, all of that shit. And I totally understand when people say that. I think though, like my immediate family, like my mom, my dad, my brother, like I would forgive them for a lot. I also like don't need to forgive them, right? Because they're not doing shitty fucking shit to me. Like there's never been a situation where I need to forgive them for doing something that I can think of. So like that says a lot, right? But everyone has that like family family members that like they've just done things that are kind of unforgivable. Maybe it's not towards you, maybe it's towards someone else, or maybe it's just how they live their life, right? It's okay to not be cool with all your family members, right? I'm not cool with a lot of mine probably. I haven't I wouldn't say not cool. I haven't spoken to mine in most of them years. And I think that's perfectly okay. Like forgiveness, like also why you're forgiving someone, why you won't forgive someone doesn't have to be because of what they did to you. It can be what they did to others. It can be how they lived their life. Like there's some things you just can't forgive and that's okay. And I feel that way especially with family, I feel like. And maybe that's just my situation, stuff like that. Friendship, I feel like friendships are very similar to relationships, besides, it's probably not going to be as deep. I have definitely been a shitty friend and I have cut people off for the wrong reasons. And luckily, me and that one friend we're back to being friends and we're actually closer than we have ever been. And I think part of it was because I fucked up, right? Part of it was because my ex and I listened to my ex and all of that shit. Because we have both agreed, like, we don't think we'd be as close if what happened hadn't had happened. So sometimes, like, those things can be good if you look at it from a positive aspect, right? I do think, though, there are things in friendships that are unforgivable, right? If you start trying to flirt with my boyfriend and uh, I don't even want to think about anything else, like, I'm probably not gonna fuck with you, right? There's just a line that is known that you shouldn't fucking do. That would be one of them. And anyone in their right fucking mind can agree with me. Now, I do think it's okay to have opinions about people. Like, I've had friends in the past and they're like, and they're still current friends. They're like, hey, I don't like your boyfriend. Now, they didn't say it like that, right? They didn't say they didn't like my boyfriend or anything like that. But they gave me their opinion on my exes and stuff like that. And I didn't take it. But I was like, hey, thanks for telling me, right? Now, should I have listened to them? Catch 22? Yeah, because, well, they didn't work out and they were fucking right. But most of them don't listen to this podcast anyway, so they're not going to hear that. So that's perfect. But with friendships too, I think you can be a little bit more lenient. You're going to forgive them more often than not because they're your friends. And, you know, some friends you're super close with and you see them all the time. Other friends, you see them like once a month. So if they do this shit, like it doesn't impact your life that much. And I think that's a big thing about forgiveness is how much is it impacting your life if you are forgiving it, but they keep doing it, right? If you only see them once a month and they do it every year, one time, it probably isn't impacting you that much. And maybe the friendship is worth more than that, whatever the fuck they're doing. That's okay. That's fine. Again, it's all situational. It all depends on what you want to do. I think forgiveness should be given and it should be, I wouldn't say given a lot, but you shouldn't always stand 10 toes down because people do make mistakes, and I think that is okay that people make mistakes. Again, like I said earlier, everyone's living this life for the very first time, so people are going to make mistakes, and that's okay. It's just how are they changing their actions to make sure that they aren't going to do this again and hurt you again, right? That is what's very important. So, again, forgiveness, it's hard, it's tricky. There's no line of you should stop forgiving them after 3 times, right? It's all situational. And it all depends on if you're okay with forgiving that action. Now, I will say, I think forgiving things time and time again, you should stop doing that if you are doing that. I get being a lover girl, I get wanting this amazing thing with somebody, but that shit doesn't always happen. And if they're showing you that and they keep showing you that, they're never going to change. And that's the hard thing to realize, I think, is that someone's not willing to change because you were willing to change. You were willing to make these accommodations, but they're not. And you know what? If that's the case, and I'm talking about a relationship in this standpoint, like, they're not the one for you. There are plenty of fucking people out there in this world. You will find one. I promise you. At some point, life is not linear. No one's life goes the same way. You're going to have ups and downs, and that's okay. But don't sacrifice your mental health in forgiving someone time and time again just because you love them. Because I think that's why people keep forgiving people, is because they love them and they don't know what they're going to do without them. But I'm pretty sure anyone listening to this podcast has loved someone before, right? And they have ended it. You are no longer friends with them. You are no longer in a relationship with them. And you know what? It might be tough at the beginning, right? But how are you doing now? You don't even think about that person, right? So just because it's hard to cut it off and it's easier to forgive doesn't mean shit. It will get easier. And I think I'm a really big person on, like, forgive but not forget. Like, at some point you will probably forget, right? If it's years down the road, you're probably not gonna hold that over their head. And I think that's the big thing too with forgiveness, is that some people will forgive, but then they keep holding it over your head. And they're like, well, you did this. Well, you did this. You forgave me for that. I don't want it to be brought up time and time again every time we get in a fight, every time you want to say something. Like, it's not fair to me to keep bringing up what I have changed. So I think that is a part to look at while you are forgiving, is if you are forgiving them, you need to actually fully forgive them and not keep bringing it up. If you are still bringing it up time and time again, you haven't forgiven them. And that might be a sign to you that you need to end it in the friendship, in the relationship, whatever it is. Because if you have to keep bringing it up, you have not forgiven that person. And that's fine if you can't forgive them. But it's not fair to the other person who you said you've forgiven, but then you keep saying it and bringing it up. Because I've been in that situation too. And I've had to say, and I'm like, why do you keep bringing it up? Like, we've talked about it. And they ended up stopping bringing it up. But it was hard. And those conversations are tough to have. And forgiving is tough. But again, that's part of life. Nothing in life that is great comes easy, I feel like. So it is what it is. But thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. I hope you listen to the next one. Bye, guys.